Well, in 2010, you get out of prison, but you start to use again.
Yep.
And then a situation happened where you took 4 Ambien pills.
Yep.
And you get in the car with one of your kids, and you end up getting into a car accident.
Yeah.
And you drive off.
Yep.
And that was a big deal.
Yes. So I'm in Franklin Lakes, and the thing was, I took Ambien to sleep like 3 in the morning. The next morning, like 6, my wife asked me to take, she was pregnant with my daughter, to take Dylan to school. I thought that was okay to do it. But I actually knew I was in trouble when he was in the car, was going, and he said, "Dad, why are you driving in these people's yard?" So I was dozing off, not knowing it. So I said, okay, but the school's not that far. I should be able to make it. And I hit this car. It was a neighbor's car. I hit the car. It was no damage, and he said, it's fine. But then when I got ready to pull off, the police was right there. He was just happened to be sitting there. And he saw what was going on. I thought, he didn't know I had talked, but he pulled off. And as he's talking to me about what's going on, I'm dozing off right there. He's, right in the ticket, I'm dozing off. And when he take me to the station, the fingerprint and all that, I'm still dozing off. So he asked me, what, I taking cocaine or whatever? I said, no, I wouldn't be falling asleep if it was that. I told him what happened, but he pressed charges and went to court for all that. It was just, the thing like that, I take full responsibility for that. But I was trying to do the right thing. That turned out to be a bad thing by taking my son to school. I should have just not taken him, obviously.
Yeah.
But I played over.
Right. You were charged with DWI with a child passenger, leaving the scene of an accident, and some other violations. You're also charged with endangering the welfare of a child.
Yeah.
You were facing 10 to 20 years at one point.
Yeah.
And this is after doing 7 months. Now you're facing 10 to 20 years. I mean, were you worried that this was actually going to happen?
I actually got worried when initially going through it, I'm like, and it could have been like 2 charges, but they like ripped me up for it turned into like 15 charges, which should have been 2. But I did it, so I can't, But when I met with the public defender and all these guys, they said, well, you plead guilty, we'll give you probation, but you got to go to outpatient, all this stuff. So I agreed to it, but then we go to court. He said, no, these are serious charges. Other thoughts we want to charge you, which that offer's not on the table anymore. And you pleaded guilty, but that was part of the deal. So luckily, the judge said you can't have them plead guilty and agree to something, and then in court
change the deal. Yeah,
and change the deal. So that's how I ended up getting probation again. But that was scary once they tried to change it.
Right. So you got 5 years probation.
5 years probation. Yeah.
And you had to go outpatient drug treatment.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, but you still had problems after that, and at one point, you actually started living in a Comfort Inn motel.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, you went from, what was your biggest deal? How many millions again?
15.
15. You went from a $15 million deal, buying up an entire block of houses, multiple World Series wins, all-star, game appearances, being a superstar, and now you're living in a motel.
Yeah.
And doing drugs in a motel.
Yeah. So that was, again, when you're not going to meetings and not doing responsibility, it happens. And I was going through a horrible, horrible divorce with my second wife now. And again, I'm not justifying to make excuses or whatever. We're in the house. She says, I'm signing baseball cards. My daughter's helping me. She asked me something about food. I said, get the F out of my face. She called the cops, said I threatened to kill her family. I didn't. They throw me out of the house. Now, she files for divorce. She goes back to Maryland. And I don't see my kids for six months. I didn't see them or talk to them. So when the cops made me leave the house, I went to the hotel. But by not seeing my kids on it, again, I used that as an excuse to get high. Once I started getting high again, you don't start over. You start where you left off. So the amounts that I was using just escalated. Then I got comfortable being at the hotel. Nobody knows I'm here besides, people there. I just stay here and do whatever, not knowing you're basically killing yourself. It's like a slow suicide.
Yeah.
No contact with my mom. My dad was going to my kids, occasionally contact with them. When they came to visit, I'm still in and out of the bathroom until finally we go to court. And then the court said I got to take anger management. I took anger management, but the blessing to the anger management was the therapy was also in recovery. So when I finished anger management, I continued working with her. But that's how I got back on track.
Do you think that was a turning point in your life?
I thought so for sure, because I was actually, like my second wife, I was still in love with her, but she wasn't good for me. Hadn't I went to anger management and therapy, I'd probably be still with her. And it was just a bad situation. I wasn't right for her at that time, and she wasn't right for me at that time. But I needed that to focus on me. So my therapist made me take everything off the divorce, everything off what's going on, to turn it back on me and, focus on me.
Well, that same year, you get inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame, along with Darryl Strawberry.
Yeah.
And you threw out the first pitch.
Yeah.
How did that feel? I mean, you didn't get into the Baseball Hall of Fame, but the Mets Hall of Fame is still a very big deal.
Well, that was a big deal. That was great, especially going with Darryl, as well as Davey Johnson, the manager, and Frank Cashin, the general manager. Had my mom there, my kids there. It was just a great time. And plus, for me, it was kind of like, not necessarily closure, but kind of saying that, okay, I didn't get into the Major Hall of Fame, like you said, but the Mets appreciated the job I've done. And I was okay with that, because you just never know. With the off-the-field problems, you let people down, stuff happen. But I just felt like with that, everything was forgiven. And to share that with my family, and like you mentioned with Darryl, going in at the same time, I thought it was a great honor.
Well, that next year in 2011, you showed up on Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. And I guess you never actually agreed to it before it was announced.
Right.
But you kind of went with it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, it was crazy.
How's that whole experience?
So it was weird, because with Lenny, like Dykstra, who I've known over 40 years, and Lenny, we played A-ball together. When he first came to New York, he stayed with me. So I met with Lenny a couple of days before I went to sub rehab, and we talked about it. And somewhere the New York Post had a picture of myself, Michael Lohan, and Amy Fisher on the cover, saying we're going to be in sub rehab. And at that time, I never talked to anybody. I knew anything about it. So Lenny asked me about it. I said, no, that's not true. It's just a rumor. A couple of days later, I get a call and say, would you be willing to come on here? And I asked what it was about, because at the time, I still needed some treatment. So I said, well, I'll come on, but I'm not really into about the show part. What about the recovery behind the scenes stuff? I said, yeah, you'll get that as well, but we also have the show as well. A lot of it's premeditated. So I was okay, as long as I can get the help that I need as well, I'll do it. So about the third day I'm in there, it's like 3 a.m. Dr. Drew comes to the room and say, Doc, I need you to get dressed and come up. I said, what's going on? He goes, we have a Lenny Dykstra here. And I'm thinking, it's part of the show or something. He's here with 2 guys with black suits on, and he won't leave. So he's not leaving unless you leave with him. I said, if he don't leave, I'm calling the cops. So I'm still thinking it's just part of the show. It's just, So when I go in there, I see Lenny. I said, Lenny, what's going on? Doc, get your suitcase, get out of here. Because previously, when I had told him I didn't know anything about it, I guess he believed it. He said, no, you're not supposed to be here. I don't know what's going on. You got to get out of here. My friends are going to help you get out of here. So I say, Lenny, no, I'm fine. It's okay. Got to go. And so they finally leave before the cops get there. Then Dr. Drew asked me would I think Lenny would be on the next episode. So I said, I don't know about that. But being in sub rehab, it was good. It was good. I went into like the TV part but the behind the scenes work that we did was very good and very helpful. So I got a lot out of it. And that was right there. Right before I had to go to court with all the stuff that happened in Franklin Lakes with the child endangerment and all that stuff. So it definitely helped.
Well, like we talked about throughout this interview, you had issues with drug use for decades at this point.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, you get pulled over in New Jersey.
Yes.
And you get arrested for cocaine possession.
Yeah.
You were driving too slow, I guess.
Yeah.
You were facing 5 years if convicted. Were you worried that this was actually going to, actually put you in prison for a long time?
I thought, that's the one time, like I had got to a point where it had taken over again. And my ego came in place where I went and asked for help. My pride was too big to ask for help. I was living in New Jersey. And I'm riding around getting high like 2 days. A mess, not liking myself. Still medicating, thinking that the one hit's going to change the way I feel, or at least I can go home. My phone dropped, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And so the GPS, I couldn't find the GPS. So I was somewhere in New Jersey. I didn't even know where I was. And I was just a mess. Cops pulled me over. I was changing lanes or something. Cops pulled me over. And I actually thanked the cops for pulling me over. They said, Doc, I said, yeah. I said, but you guys are just, they felt bad for the situation. I said, no, you guys are just doing your job. I understand. I got to do it, whatever. Because had they not put me over, I think I would have killed myself or killed somebody because I couldn't stop getting high. They pulled me over, took me in, get out. And then the thing about it, 4 days later, I got pulled over for the same thing, but the drugs, I didn't have drugs in the car, but I was turning, it was like raining, turning down a one-way street. I didn't know. By the time I was turning around, the cops pulled me over. My blood pressure was down, so they took me to the hospital. They took me to jail, but there was really no charge there. But that's when I knew, I said, you know what? This is bigger than just drugs. It's got to be something serious going on. And like I was raised in a family where like black men, in my household, black men don't cry, black men don't hug. You don't tell another man you love them. You just ain't do that. So I had to relearn all that. And I'm not justifying anything. That's just the way it was. So, but I just knew something mentally wasn't right because when I went back to jail, I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. And then I didn't trust myself leaving the house by myself because it was like if a certain song comes on, like a rap song, certain rap song come on, it makes me want to get high. Sometimes I can smell the drugs in the air. I didn't like living like that. Like I said, you go from Mets Hall of Fame, all these awards, Major League Baseball. I've been through, I know what's going to happen. You go to prison, or go back there, or, you know, I say, you know what? I got to throw my ego aside, put my pride aside, and get some mental work. I had to go to get mental help. I went to a high focus in Morristown, New Jersey. And I told the guys there, they said, you know, you're not crazy. I said, no, I didn't say I was crazy. Because when people say crazy, like growing up as a kid, you say, oh, you're just crazy. Oh, you're just crazy. No big deal. You're all right. Have a drink. You'll be fine. But when you put the word mental on it, it's like, man, I don't know. Because I went to a hiking site, Mr. First for like 10 days. At first, I was like, I don't belong in here. But then when I look at my track record, I'm like, yeah, I do belong in here. And high focus outpatient. I got to work on the mental aspect. Why certain things happen, I had to revisit watching my sister get shot. I had to revisit when my mom shot my dad. I had to revisit stuff I seen in the project. I seen people get killed. I had to revisit all that stuff. Revisit my dad's situation. It was tough. Revisit missing my kids' birthdays, mess parade. I had to revisit all those dark moments. So they break you down and build you up, but they tell you about it and you talk about it, how you felt, where was your mind at that place, and trying to be one of the best things for me. I mean, now, by the grace of God, July, I'll have 5 years if I get to July.
You're now 5 years sober.
If I get to July, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, yeah, thank you. But it's just, I know how to switch, it can change. I mean, I celebrate it, but at the same time, I'm aware. Because like you said, I've been in 7 years before. I've been in 8 years before. And I also had days where I couldn't get to 2 days. Yeah. So I'm aware of that double-headed sword, so.
Well, yeah, you end up getting 1 year probation.
Yes. Yep.
You know, all these cases, I mean, along the way, you could have gotten, I mean, without the right lawyers, with a bad judge, with a overzealous prosecutor, it could have ended up 5 years, 10 years, maybe even 20 years.
No doubt.
You know, luckily you weren't a drug dealer. You were just an addict.
Yes.
And I think that the courts understand that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you were, you know, selling kilos or whatever. You were just having an issue yourself. And that's, I think, what ultimately saved you.
Yeah. Well,
and you ultimately didn't really hurt anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
You know, although you had accidents and whatever else, there's no real injuries. Nobody died, luckily, or else. But someone could have died.
That's right.
And then that would be life in prison.
Yeah.
So you got very lucky.
Yes.